Panelists, you're welcome to today's edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This evening we're going to be looking at democracy in Africa, asking the question whether it is a concept that has failed, that has not worked in Africa, judging by what is happening in West Africa with trending coup d'etats and the reaction of the population seemingly very contented with what is happening out there. One would have expected the population to say no, we have gone past the days of coup d'etats, but seemingly they have welcomed it and they are working with their new leaders, and we're going to be looking at what is happening in that side of Africa and the general concept of democracy in Cameroon. We're going to be looking at the basic commodities in our markets that have been skyrocketing. What is happening with the prices of our basic commodities? Is it the fact that the business class in Cameroon wants to exploit us, or the fact that most of these basic commodities are produced out of Cameroon, and the fact that the global economy is affecting how we consume in Cameroon? We're looking at this with our panelists who are in the house already. We are going to be discussing these two topics with Apostle Ambe Valentine. He is a permanent consultant. Good evening, Apostle, and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians. Good evening, viewers of Prime Hour. Good evening, my co-panelists. Welcome to today's program, and God bless you all.
We also are in the company of Dr. Ako John Ako, who is a lecturer across some Cameroon universities. We're glad to have you.
The pleasure is mine, Mr. Leo, once more to discuss Africa, to talk Cameroon, and equally issues affecting us individually. I believe the audience too, we are glad to have you for the points we are going to share within this particular program.
Robert Malangfe is also here with us. He is representing the CPDM party. Good evening, Robert. Many persons actually wrote to me that they were happy to note that you are going to be part of this edition of the program. They were saying, many have been asking where you've gone to. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Greetings to my co-panelists. Greetings to all Cameroonians that have taken their time to sit in front of their screen to follow us this program, and we will ensure to give our best. We are always here to give our view. Many will accept it, many will reject it, but the effect will always come out and the reality will be exposed. So it's a pleasure to be here. To all those that have been missing me, I'm back. It's just that for now I'm a little bit focused with my studies. I would like to take this opportunity to greet the #1 statesman, a man that is not commonly seen, but the effect of his good work is seen as a tornado that manifests. We saw it over the AFCON and the rest. So we are blessed to have President Paul Biya as the head of state of Cameroon.
Okay. But it was also very interesting to note that you have a strong following. Yes, I was surprised. But militants of this ruling CPDM party of the Northwest region yesterday sent a motion of support to the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Paul Biya, for the good works he has been doing in Cameroon, and hoping that he stands as their candidate for the 2025 presidential elections. Were you part of those who signed the motion of support?
You see, I am one of those that will even stand behind President Paul Biya, as we said when during the closing remark, that will stand and push President Paul Biya even right up to heaven physically, because we believe in his good work he's doing. It's so sad that we have some political analysts that will say that age has anything to do with having the capacity to rule a nation. But when you look at the case of America, nobody ever stood to challenge the present president of his age, and in other countries it has never been a problem when it comes to age, but the effect of their work that people used to analyze that. So we are doing this based on what the president, head of state, is doing. Today, as I tell you, among the 54 African countries that we have, Cameroon is the highest country that has foreigners, more than 4 million registered Nigerians, Senegalese, Malian, because everything is going on well in Cameroon. That's why they are attracted to Cameroon. All glory goes to President Paul Biya. Cameroon is the only country where even a madman does not lack food to eat. But all this is down to the president, President Paul Biya, that have always been there for the people of Cameroon. However, as a leader, he will always have his critics, which we respect.
Okay.
It's a sign of democracy.
We also this evening are going to be discussing with Maina Gana, who is the CEO of Development Africa, an NGO that is operating in Africa and Cameroon precisely, who is based in Uganda, Kampala, but today he's going to be participating from the Republic of South Africa, where he is engaged in some business activities that way. Mr. Maina Gana, we're glad to have you this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, the panelists. Thank you for having me today. Yeah, thank you. Not well. Can you repeat again?
How is Develop Africa doing?
Yeah, Develop Africa doing well. We are growing in many countries. We are trying to make an impact to life. Thank you again.
Okay, we are going to begin with the basic commodities in our market. What is happening? Apostle Ambe, Valentine, who is swelling prices in our markets?
Who else will swell the prices in our market except the government? You see, things are done directly and indirectly. The government might not be directly involved in hiking prices of basic commodities, but they may put certain policies in place that may influence the retailers and the wholesalers to hike the prices. For instance, we learned in economics about direct and indirect tax. Taxes have become very exorbitant lately in this country because that's the only way through which the government has to survive. The government has hung on taxes as the leaning bull that an aged person that can no longer move will lean on, because taxes are channels through which we generate income in a country, which is a basic right of every country, and every government has the right to collect taxes. But when the taxes become exorbitant, that it suffocates the very essence of living the lives of the people in the country, then the tax has become a curse and not a blessing. Taxes also are raised in the country to carry out social amenities, which we know. The military are paid from taxes. Roads are constructed. Sometimes street lights are given through taxes. Other amenities are given, which is very, very correct. But you see, taxes must be regulated in a country in such a way that it does not jeopardize the well-being of the citizens. And taxes must be put in place to make sure that the citizens as well as the government benefits on both sides. So if you look at it critically, somebody who is selling phone, somebody who is doing other things and other businesses, because of the increase in taxes, people will definitely increase the prices of their products. For instance, flour rose from 16,800 to 23,000. What do you expect a man that is producing cake, bread? As a matter of fact, 3/4 of the things we eat in our daily life is tied to flour. You go to boulangerie, to the bakeries, you will get bread there, you will get cake there, you will get almost everything done out of flour. That is one aspect of life that consumes the society. You go to Egypt, wheat one time rose because they practically feed on wheat. Wheat became a challenge in Egypt because the taxes were so high that the people started producing wheat, and wheat, which was a common meal in Egypt, became very expensive. Just like today, people will tell them, okay, bread, the size is still the same, they still have the same quality of bread, but the quantity of the bread, the quality of the bread is not the same. The value is not the same. So you will realize that because of the taxes heaped upon the wholesalers and the retailers, the consumer man is the one that suffers the shock at the end. Because when the government puts the taxes upon the products, the consumer automatically is the one that suffers the shock. Why should I be in my country and I'm unable to eat satisfactorily? You can no longer take 5,000 francs and go to the market and buy things as you used to buy some years back or some months back. Sometimes you take 10,000, you can buy a whole bag of cocoyams and plantains. But when you go now to the market to buy, they will tell you that, plantain don't deal, cocoa don't deal. You'll be looking directly at the person who is selling that cocoa in front of you or the plantain, not knowing that the person is the fallout of what has been done in the closet. The person is the consequences of some decisions arrived at by a few persons who are sitting in offices and does not understand the plight of the common man in the society. So we are saying this, that the price increase in the price of basic commodities is because of the increase in taxes. Secondly, there is a lack of control of the price unit in the country. We have a loose system. I was talking to a group of young people. I said the social media is a republic that has no protocol. In Cameroon, the CRTV will never show wrong images. My media pro will not show wrong images or pornographic thing, because there is a particular law that guides the media in the country. But you go to the social media is a public that has no protocol. Nobody is there to guide anything. Nobody is there to instruct you. Children plunge into sites that are not permitted. You will never see rubbish on CRTV. If you watch CRTV, they put educative programs there. They build children. They build the community. They inspire people. They bring news about the country. You are aware. They bring a conscience about the country. For 24 hours, you will not see nude pictures on CRTV. You will not see vandalism. You will not see hooliganism. You will not see stupid images. Because why? The protocols that guide the media in the country automatically give that TV the parameters on how to operate. But the social media is a world that has no protocol. People lock into it and they watch anything that they want to watch. That's the same way our price system is in this country. It is very loose. It has no unit control. Somebody is selling oil in Douala for 1,500. Another person is selling that same oil in Kongsamba for 1,000 francs. Somebody sells plantain in Douala for 2,500. Somebody is selling that same plantain in Bonaberi in the same Douala for 3,000 francs. That tells you that there is no price control unit that directs the activities. So you move a few meters away, the price of a particular product changes because of the individual's decision. When the customer, when the wholesalers and retailers become the agent of price determinants in the country, it's very dangerous. So we are calling upon the Ministry of Commerce to regulate the price so that the people who are the ones selling do not crucify the consumers. Because they will tell that, oh, prices have increased. Even though prices have increased, the way they are going to sell, they will double even what the government has given to them as taxes. For instance, if the government increases taxes of 1%, somebody will want to sell that product, he will sell it to gain at least 3%, jeopardizing the life of the person who is consuming it. Therefore, now, the consumer who is at the receiving end is the one that suffers the shock, of which there is supposed to be a referee that stands in the middle between the consumer and the distributor, so that there will be no damages. So we are calling upon the government, which is a referee, to come and referee this match, because a lot of bad games and injuries are taking place.
Dr. John Akko, should we still blame the government? Are some persons not also using what is happening because they just hear that there are taxes that have increased to also exploit our local communities?
Yeah, most often than not, there is a responsibility between the government towards its people and the responsibility to take care about those people he governs. One of the things we have to know is that when things are bad, then the head is bad. And that when the system can no longer hold, then you can imagine it was written somewhere that things fall apart. I believe Cameroon has arrived at that stage where the center can no longer hold, that the head, the President Paul Biya is as claimed by Kedia, that he has been managing the country well. Maybe Kedia has been eating too well. I will tell you that of recent Cameroonians have not been capable to feed well. If we get on the recent statistics, you will imagine that if a liter of red oil can move from 600 to 1,000, and then, I mean, there is a problem. A kilo of moving from 2,300 to 3,000 francs, and even a common chicken that does not even weigh 2 kilograms should move from 1,500 or 2,000 to about 6,000 francs. There is a problem. Cooking oil, I mean vegetable oil, moving from 1,200 to 2,200 in some markets, and the government is relaxed. I quite remember there was a publication by Jeune Afrique Economy towards the end of last year, stating clearly and making it clear, and even France 24, that if care is not taken, that the next battle, the next war Cameroon will fight is the price, the war against high cost of living. And I'm saying that if the government in Yaoundé is not aware, if President Paul Biya being 40 years in power is unable to control basic prices of commodities in the market, it's equally telling you that it comes to confirm what I've always been saying, that the machinery, the system governing Cameroonians at the helm of the nation has become obsolete, and there is a need to unravel the whole system. I mean that the president should resign and all his team, and that if at all there is a need to bring in a new blood that can help Cameroon in this battle. Prices of basic commodity, I will tell you that what we mean in Cameroon, we are not talking of foreign goods. The shock is that Those prices, we are talking of home-produced goods. And I will tell you that goods coming from abroad still enjoy very much stable prices. I begin to wonder, does it mean that the taxation system in Cameroon, we know very well that the Cameroon government is a tax approach system, meaning we can only live if taxes can increase, we can only live if taxes can be increased. We just said some time ago that they have to tax mobile money. They are going to tax Njangi by the end of the year. And very soon, they might be pushed to tax marriage ceremonies. So those who intend to get marriage should even be ready that to survive the nation, we need to add taxes on those who are willing to take new wives or find new couples. So we need to look at the system of the government. The moment you live on a tax economy, there is a direct impact. You mean that the final consumer will pay the prices of what you had increased. And we are thinking that the Cameroonian system need to overhaul. We need to overhaul everything in Yaoundé. We need to change the leadership we need at the Ministry of Trade and Commerce. You imagine that there is one other organ they call weight and measures. We don't even know what instrument we use, weight and pricing, what prices for which commodity. It is not, don't they exist? We have been crying this is getting to over 6 months and we have not had just basic decisions. What implementations? There are no personnel in that ministry. Do they really work? Are they there to serve the interests of the king? As the king or the whatsoever, the sovereign has no problem with the price increase. They eat very well. They live in glass houses. They live Scotch, drink, vin de Bordeaux, Chateau, the whatsoever. And again, Scotch whiskey is that the level of a common Cameroonian. Somebody in Banjok, somebody in Nolinga needs a better lifestyle. He needs equally to feel at his own level that the country in which he or she belongs is the country to which the government of this republic is working to protect. Within no doubt, today will confirm equally that the consequences of the Anglophone crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest has equally been felt, and that the government should accept for once that there's a need to dialogue, there's a need to talk to one another. For us to solve an economic problem, we are unable to eat. Basic foodstuffs are not present in the market. Those in the littoral region, those in the West, can imagine how many times vegetables, tomatoes could leave the Northwest, Southwest region into this very region. Today, those places have been emptied. A lot of people live in the bushes. Others are now being called refugees, internally displaced, and we're happy about it. We pass news every day of arm attack. I remember Malcolm X said, if the need for peace is for us to talk to one another, there's a need for us to talk to them. It is better than an armed environment. We need to tell the country that now we are at a level we cannot eat, and that if we can't eat because 2 regions that were known to be agricultural lands have been occupied by the military and arms, and so makes anybody who is living in the farm to become an Amber boy. And so this means that there is need for that conviviality. There is need for that belonging. And so if we have to belong, there's a need for us to talk if we can solve this problem. Banana is no longer existing even in the market. CDC is nearly out of market. Del Monte does not even exist again in the South. You can just imagine that. I could imagine how many tons of banana leave Del Monte, Tico to Douala market. And today, if only PHP from Jombe Penja is saving the market, what becomes of the demand? Everything. Cameroon need to be serious. The increase in prices, the scarcity of the product has been generated by the state. And I'm telling you that uneasy lies the heads that carries the crown. And if the president of the republic is serious, we need to see real actions. Cameroonians are suffering. Cameroonians are unable to eat. It's not because maybe some of us might have purchased a dish this morning. I feel for those who are unable to raise 2,500 to buy a liter of vegetable oil to go and cook. And they will be forced. Maybe we are going to fry beignet with water, and others maybe baking with vapor. We need a lot of that to change the stakes on the ground.
Okay, good evening to you, Shinui Edwin, and all of you watching us on social media, Sub-Betran. Good evening to you, Roberto Ndiwum, Emmanuel, good evening, and Roberto Badisom, Ndiwum, Emmanuel, good evening to you, Nelly K, Fondon Richard, Apostle Ambe sends you special greetings, and no Cletus and Noada. Good evening to you, Julius Chofo, Sab-Betran. Good evening to you, Judune Tumenta, Atika Lidos, and Shinui Edwin. Good evening to all of you. Now, how do we explain what is happening in our markets? Would we fault here? Is it our Cameroonians who want to exploit their fellow brothers and sisters, or the government, that is the ministry that is supposed to regulate prices in our markets today?
Mr. Kum Leonard, it's been a while I've not been here, and I'm happy to see my co-panelists. Most of them have gained weight, even though they say they don't eat in Cameroon. But I ask myself a lot of questions. How is that possible when most of them have gained a lot of weight as compared to the last time I saw them? And for those thinking that President Paul Biya will resign, sorry, you will still see him in 2032, not even 2025, because he will win. Okay, coming back to your question to talk about what is actually happening. You see, with the presence of the COVID-19 all over the world, the increase of price is felt everywhere. It's not only in Cameroon. So when we try to sell that ideology to Cameroonians to make them think that the impact of COVID-19 is only in Cameroon, then it's so very, very, very sad. Now in Cameroon, we have imported goods and we have home-produced goods. And when we talk especially about that of farine and the rest, you realize that those are goods that are being imported. And with the presence of closures of companies due to the COVID-19, most of these companies were shut down for a period of time. And now that people are coming out to work, definitely demand have surpassed supply, and so we have the increase in price. So we should not come and make people believe that it is because of government or whatsoever. Because if you go to the market, you realize that the price of issues like gari, which yes, normally is expensive than rice, but recent time the price of gari has not increased. Recent time the price of fish, which is locally caught, has not been increased, but the price of fish that is being imported from Cameroon has increased. So we should know and be able to evaluate these two differences. To go further, I would like to say that it is so sad when we say a bunch of plantain in Douala is this price and a bunch of plantain in another market, or maybe in Kongsamba is another price. For sure, there is no way we can have a fixed price for plantain, because a bunch of plantain have their sizes and the way they are, so it could be evaluated by the person buying it. So there is no way we can analyze that based on the way people want to put it out. Now, what I will come here to talk as a young intellectual that I am is not to blame the government or to blame another person, but I would like to say we should respect the head of state, President Paul Biya, that call for the diversity in productivity of our agriculture. If we could have listened to the President of the Republic, we could have focused in production of cassava. We could have focused in the production of sweet potatoes, which is used to fabricate bread, which can even take the place of farine and the rest, to be able to face the problem we are having. That is my message to our agricultural farmer back home. We should try to boost our own production. Yes, there are also things that I will concur with some of my co-panelists, like I admire the way it was done in Nigeria, that the border was shut for the production of home production of rice, and importation was banned in Nigeria. Those are some of the major aspects which definitely I will call the government to also look into. As an analyst, and we are all Cameroonian, I will not come and say things are okay when things are not actually okay, because the effect is felt by everybody, our family members, our friends, everywhere. But when we come here, we should be able to give some educational talk to the government and to our own people, because the government listens to all these debates and they learn from them. But when we come, we decide to go astray to be talking about resigning, the government have done this, people are not eating, then actually we are not being really actually educative. Because I will tell you, Mr. Kum Leonard, your program and other programs that deal with analyzing issue is watched by ministers themselves. They sit on their sitting room and watch this program to get the education to empower themselves. So when we come here, we should definitely give these various aspects. So to conclude, I will say we should boost our home production so that in time of any problem, we should be able to face the reality of our problem. It is also true that the impact of the Anglophone crisis is being felt in the market, because the price of huckleberry that was being produced in some of these villages with the presence of ghost town at the rest have definitely have an impact in the supply of these basic home commodities to the major city. It is true, but we should not say that the government does not want to dialogue. No, it was the government that started dialogue. It was the government that went to all these European countries. Big Laurent Esso went to Belgium to discuss with our brother when this problem started. But they in Europe said, no, go back. don't discuss with us, go and discuss with the people in the ground. The government came and called for another dialogue in the ground. Many people say, no, we don't need dialogue in the ground. We want dialogue in neutral ground. When Laurent Esso went to Belgium, was it not a neutral ground? So we should stop all this issue of dialogue, all this issue of talking, and let's face the reality. Those in the bush should definitely drop their arms so that we can go to the reality.
That's not our topic.
No, when a co-panelist was talking about it, you permit it. But when I want to talk about it, it's not a topic. A co-panelist spoke about it here.
About negotiation.
About dialogue. That there is need for dialogue. That the government does not want to dialogue. It was spoken here.
A few dialogue.
Who spoke? Wait, no, please.
He spoke about it. That's why he said.
Yes,
he talked about it.
And I am insisting,
okay.
and I will continue.
No, doctor. That's not the focus of our
No, it is not. But
doctor, please. Doctor, please. I really would not want us to talk about that today.
It is
doctor, please.
It was a failed dialogue.
Doctor,
cannot insist.
Doctor, we are talking about
we are
talking about price increase in our markets. Please, that's not our topic for tonight. Maina Gana, you are in South Africa today. I know you work in Kampala, in Uganda. Is the situation actually same out there? Are we witnessing this? And how do we explain what we are observing in Cameroon today?
Thank you, Mr. Leo. I can tell you that this is an international situation around the world, because in Uganda, in Kenya, South Africa, they are talking the same topic last week about the hiking price of those commodities. Let us not make mistake about that. Number one. And number two, we don't have to see it just on a political perspective. We need to think also about economical and also social one. Number one, you see, there is something we call inflation that is happening around the world every year. After that, the impact of COVID-19 has hit a lot of international companies that now they are not longer able to supply a lot of commodity around the world. Now, let's go back to Cameroon perspective. You know, Cameroon is an important country. The majority of the biggest commodity like flour, like cooking oil, is coming from abroad. It's not enough for our. So the moment the government wants to order it outside, there is not enough supply. The price is going higher, and the moment the price is going higher, the people will add the price necessarily in Cameroon. It's not the issue of political, but the issue is international, that the people and the government will to come together to understand how things are not working and they make work. We are not going to waste all our time talking about politics or calling someone down or blaming. If we understand the inflation means every year our money is losing value of 14%. Let us not make mistake, Mr. Leo. If Apostle Ambe Valentine is buying oil 1,000 CFA a liter in 2015, and you want to buy the same 1,000 in 2020 or 2022, things are very wrong. It's not moving forward. Even the country is not prospering, my brother. Yes, you can't buy something after 5 years. We want the same. We are not stagnant. We are human beings. We are prospering. The economy is growing, and before the country is growing, the economy is higher. Now, we need to know exactly where are we getting wrong and how things are not moving. First of all, inflation, talking about coffee. And number three, see how we can produce something that the government cannot buy outside the country. At least we are not using the foreign currency that is costing us a lot in Africa. Don't forget that we are African countries from the Western countries, and anything we want, we are not buying it with our currency. We are buying it with foreign to buy, and the price is fluctuating. It can go higher and it can go low. Imagine in Cameroon, we are exporting fish, we are exporting flour, we are exporting cooking oil. And so if the price on the international market went higher, what do we do? They have to have the price. So let us sit down exactly as a citizen, think otherwise than talking about politics. Serious matter, we have it in South Africa, Uganda, and how we can see Mr. Leo.
Okay, you've gotten what he's just said. That is Maina Gana. Good evening to you, Louis Pop, Maximilian Mark. Good evening to you, Maimo Javo Ranking, Jarvis Kang Akame. Atus Sake, good evening to you, Funeba Lovet, Ewan Heldrin, and Edan Heldrin, and to you, Njuabe Edwin Iyenji. Good evening to all of you guys watching us on our social media handle, Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa. You got what he set out there. It is a global phenomenon. We know that the world is going through what we are living the days of COVID-19. It's not also easy to move goods and services across the globe. But is it also, are we paying for the prices of letting go of those institutions that actually fed us? In the past, we're talking about the likes of WADA. We are talking of Simri and a host of others, because most of these things that we are importing, we were supposed to be producing them here in Cameroon.
When Mr. Gana speaks about a global challenge, it is understood from a generic point of view, but it's unfounded when it comes to the Cameroonian context. I'm very sorry to say that. When the prices of fuel and a barrel of fuel fell in the world market, the prices did not change in Cameroon.
They have never changed.
When he talks about prices in the world market increasing and they will affect the countries that are down, when the price of fuel fell in the world market, did it change in Cameroon? You are not talking to people who are not informed about their country. Number two, the cooking oil or the vegetable oil we are talking about is mayo. It is true that custom duties are placed on imported products, thereby increasing their prices. Mayo is done here in Bunaberi. It is done here in Bunaberi, and the raw material for mayo is palm nut. It's harvested here in Bondombanga. It's harvested here in the southwest. You are not talking to strangers. We don't import palm nuts in this country. We have palm nuts in this country from smallholder scheme, from villages.
There must be an impact, because Pamol and CDC were a core supplier of this raw materials.
When I link up, Kedia said the dialogue was proper.
Yeah, because Pamol I remember that most of these tankers will come from Pamol in Lobe, and then the CDC.
Mondoni, Mondoni is the world supplier.
Yes,
it's the best national supplier of red oil.
The storage of oil that was reserved in those refineries, as you put it, is able to... Do we know what cost storage? Do you know what cost storage in business? This oil we are talking about is transported through vessels, through the sea, and brought to the city of Douala. Those are storage. There are storage tanks that oil was stored there in case of any challenges. This mayo here has its raw material in Cameroon from palms. Mayo rose, a liter of mayo rose from 900 to 1,400. A home-based product. We farm onion in the north. We farm garlic in the north.
Common table salt.
Quantities of onion and garlic and beans. They live from Bankim, they live Magba, they live Tibati.
Cow meat.
They leave those places and they come here. Do we import cow meat in this country?
In Cameroon.
The things we import here are some of the fishes that come from out of the country. I'm talking about cow meat. A kilogram of meat rose from 2.3 to 3.3. It was a meat imported. I'm asking, was the meat imported here? Meat leave the north from Kusiri to Garwa, to Marwa, to Ngaundere, to Menganga, where they do all that cattle ranching. Right to Wumde, where they do cattle ranching. And a good quantity of meat comes to this Douala. We still buy, there's a hike in the price of meat. I don't want to go into imported farine. We have little companies in this country like Afro Brain that is now turning potatoes into flour for baking, cassava into flour for baking. And you are telling us that because prices have increased in the world market, that is the reason why the effect is upon here. I'm talking about the things we are producing in the house here. The things we are producing, the basic commodity, let the prices of imported goods increase, we will understand. What about the ones that we are producing here where the raw materials are at our disposal? One of the ways they did also to superimpose this thing was that they blocked the entry of some foreign cook and vegetable oil, so there will be no competitor. When last did you see Olio? When last did you see the Indonesia Lucy, the Bruli oils that used to come here in 20 liters? Go to the market, you will see them again. They have blocked the incoming of those particular containers of oil in this country because they want to give Mayo monopoly to be the chief supplier. So since he's a monopolist, he increases the price, you'll be left with no choice than to buy it. If we are talking about the hike of prices because of the COVID-19, it is well understood. There are countries that had COVID-19, they gave their nations stimulus. People were giving money to be able to match up with the scarcity of goods and services and the difficulty in life. How much money was given to the citizens of this country as stimulus to match up with the situation on ground? So we are specialized in only increasing prices and we are not specialized in giving stimulus. Did America not give stimulus? Did Germany not give stimulus? Did Britain not give stimulus? As much as there was a scarcity of products, stimulus was given to the citizens in order to match up with the standard. What Kobo was given to us in this country as COVID-19 stimulus in order to match up with the fall of basic commodities in the world market? It was in this Sudan here, Omar el-Bashir, when the price of things like sugar, flour, tea, rice rose up, the citizens moved into the street and started mounting pressure on the government for finally Omar el-Bashir was kicked out of power. What world market price are we talking here? I want to ask the sincere question that we have to be asking and searching our conscience, that are we going to be defending almost every single thing because we belong to a regime or because we want to satisfy people? That's the truth. I'm asking, are we going to defend every single thing? Let them tell me where Mayo gets its raw material and where Mayo is produced. I stroll on foot to go to Mayo factory there in Bonaberry, and the importation, the raw material used as palm oil is there, the machines are there. And you are telling me that we are importing oil, cooking oil, vegetable oil from outside.
I don't know whether Lasha is watching. Can you get to Sokrat? Some persons are writing from Tico and Abuya that they can't get sound from what we are discussing. Can we get to Sokrat to get that fixed? I don't know where the problem actually is. But now, good evening to you, Jim Tex Kudi, and to you, Mohamed Baba, and Akere Joel. Good evening to you. The issue now is price control, guys. Are they not doing their job also? You think so?
If they were doing their job, Mr. Leo would have seen the result. The government of today is a government that everybody for himself, God for us all.
Yeah, but they are charged with regulating.
I'm telling you, they are in charge. In Cameroon, everybody becomes a king once he or she is appointed in a particular position. And I'm telling you that the government of Cameroon has become a laxity government, a government where we glorify. The moment you sing chants and songs, praises for the head of state, you will be safe. The moment you know that the head of state remains the king, you will be safe. That is the question I asked in my first intervention, that whether the department at the Ministry of Commerce or Trade is in charge of weight, prices, and measures is no longer active. It's over 6 months now, and some people, like I want to say, how will you be telling us that the impact felt in Cameroon is the impact felt any throughout the world? And we are talking of prices of basic commodities. When we talk of basic commodities, we are talking of things coming from our own backyard. We are talking of the price of salt. We are talking of the price of red oil. We are talking of the price of vegetable oil, which all companies are associated here. A bag of salt has moved from 2,300 to 3,500. And that does not even instigate the nation. I was shocked when I watched on France 24 and Euronews sometime yesterday, and that because of the conflict in Ukraine, the conflict between Russia and the rest, the markets have gone low. And the guys are already complaining that prices have moved from €1, 1.68 euro to 1.90 euro. This was broadcasted on media. And in Cameroon, we still look at it that a price move for more than 30% increase in prices, it is normal. We are here during December, Kedia will imagine that the poultry products were not present in the market. And up to now, this is February, we have not seen an active decision from the government to resolve such problems. What is the meaning? That you are in your house, you are unable to eat, you send your wife with a 5,000 francs, which you were sure that the 5,000 francs was for a daily meal. But when she comes back, it was just for a meal, a single meal for that particular day. Is it not appealing? Is it not aggressive? Is it not urgent for us to take a decision and see if we can handle that particular issue? The increase in prices, I'm telling you now, that if the ministry, in fact, ministries in Cameroon, you will hear them telling you that on high instructions from the head of state, it will mean equally that those high instructions from the head of state is that they should continue taking their salary. There's no need to do field work. There is no need to inspect what is going on the ground. I remember sometime there was equal a decision from the Ministry of Trade stating that Mayor and many others should avoid exporting oil. Has that solved the problem? Has that oil prices gone down or they are still increasing? It is normal in Cameroon that as we are sitting here, by tomorrow a 50 franc will be added in one product or the other. It's not even the issue of increasing, but the rate at which the increase is taking place is shocking and alarming. I believe very strongly that the head of state being in Yaoundé, if he can still remember as a Cameroonian, while at the minor seminary, he could imagine how much we could buy, how many glasses of gari for 100, how many kilograms of rice for 500, how much was a kilo of fish. Many will continue to tell us that because of international trade, there is need, population has grown, economy should be more demanding. The moment the government is unable to respond, to stabilize and to promote the well-being of citizens, and even to protect them, then there is a problem. The increase in prices in Yaoundé, in Cameroon, equally indicates that the Yaoundé regime is a lax regime. I insist, it is a lax regime, a regime that is unable to take care of its people, a regime that concentrates its 40 years of maintaining in power rather than saving the people that elected them, the people that have put them in office. Yes, they will tell you that he won with 79%, he won with 89%, but what 89%? Out of a country of 25 million, you have won an election with less than 1 million votes, with less than 2 million votes, and you still claim to be a leader of that nation. I will tell sincerely that God,
but in this case, in this case, who do you blame? People who refuse not to go and vote.
The state has failed.
Yeah.
The state has failed.
But who do you blame? Why did you vote?
There are a lot of machinery in the government.
Did you
Remember,
vote?
I'm telling you, I have not voted because it doesn't count.
So.
Kedia has won already. Kedia said, yeah, there is no need. I said, Kedia told you that he will win in 2022.
You blame yourself.
We
for not
will
voting.
not blame. Remember, we are not coming to it. That people have voted, they won. Even the primaries of the CBDM, they have never been elections. How do you think there will be election with another counterpart? People sat in Yaoundé and they represent others in the region. Without a primary, such an individual is a representative of the people. Is there a need to even participate in elections? I scare muchly, I mean mostly, for those political parties still thinking that Cameroon is a democratic nation.
Doctor, thank you. Yes, what do we do? Do we stimulate home production so that we don't face what we are facing today?
That is one of the things I earlier said, which I quoted some example about farine and the rest, that we could focus on cassava and sweet potatoes. But the thing we should know is that when you decide to block importation to stimulate internal production, there is definitely the presence of shortage. And when there will be shortage, there will be increase in price. When Nigeria was shut up with the importation of rice to boost the internal production of rice, the price of rice rose in Nigeria. So if, for instance, the case of Cameroon, maybe for sugar or maybe for oil, the stop production, importation, and to stimulate internal production, some analysts will still come on TV to say they want to give monopoly and they want to make price to be expensive, when they know that when you stop importation and you invest in internal production, at that time there is scarcity and the price will definitely be high. We've seen that in most all African countries. We should be honest when we are analyzing to our people. To talk about, I admire a lot the way my co-panelists from South Africa spoke and talked about the fact that it is a problem everywhere. At least we should have that moral obligation to tell our people that it is a problem everywhere. We can go further to say maybe it's too much in Cameroon, but we have that moral obligation to tell our viewers that it is true that the aspect of COVID has an impact to the increase of price. I heard my co-panelists also saying that in America, Germany, and the rest, when there were total shutdown, the citizens were assisted, and in Cameroon, nothing was done. In Cameroon, there was no total shutdown, but in America, Germany, and the rest, there was total shutdown indoors, and the people were supposed to be fed. But we didn't have that situation in Cameroon. It will be sad that we come out compare two drastic different incidents to give a point to our viewers. But one thing I admire a lot, one thing I love a lot about our Cameroonian people is that they love the government a lot, and they appreciate what the government is doing. Do you think that President Paul Biya is so extraordinary that he is in power for 40 years if he's not loved by the people? He is there because the people love him. If the people did not want him, he will not be there. He is doing a good job. If the people say they don't want him, even the military cannot do anything. He's there because he's loved by the people. So that's the honest truth. We should talk reality. We are faced with such a situation. We are calling, my advice I can give to the Minister of Agriculture is that we should focus a lot on both internal production. And about the Anglophone crisis, we are calling on those that are in the bushes to drop their arms so that things can go peacefully, because the truth is the crisis have definitely have an impact to the common life of some of us that we are from origin from the northwest and southwest, because at times mostly, you know, when things are difficult, you call in the village, they'll send you a bag of corn, bag of beans, but with the presence of this crisis, things have really become hard, as many as move from the northwest and southwest to this town. So the impact is really there. That I must confess, and that I will always say. But the difficulties too we are having is that most of those that left these two regions, Mr. Kum Leonard, have decided instead, they are no longer internally displaced, but they have decided to invest and stay instead in the French region, which is also sad, even though some people want to still debunk or argue that fact, but it is true. Most of these internally people, they are here. You tell them to go back, they will not go. And this is what many of us were saying. That when they will move from these two regions and come here, a time will come when everything will be getting stable. They will not go back because they have invested. So those are the problems we are facing, and those are my own view I've given.
Good evening to all our panelists and our listeners of my Media Prime. I am Peter Foza, LMG. Our problem in Cameroon is the political system, and if Cameroonians are refusing to accept this fact, then we will never go out of the foreseen misery, which is coming before. If this is food today, then tomorrow it will be something else. Good evening. Okay, LMG thinks that we are our problem, Cameroonians are their problems, yes. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm from Linus in Santa. Increased home production cannot be the solution because the price of farm inputs have also doubled. E.g., the price of a 50 kg bag of urea fertilizer costs 35,000 francs today. Last year it was 15,000 francs. A liter of systematic herbicide, which was sold for 2,500, is now 5,000. The result will be a fall in production and consequently hunger. Okay. Good evening to you, or good evening to you. There are many problems that are going on. We think the reason why our country cannot advance is because the government has a complete mindset of self-defense, even when she knows that she has failed. Money meant to subsidize farm producing necessities is embezzled, and infant industries are rather taxed to death. A national government does not instantly stop the importation of a product to boost home production. It is often a gradual process, except the government does it intentionally to benefit from its fallout, as I presume as is doing now. The government should sit up. Shambi Emmanuel, writing from Ngaundiri. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love your program. I almost cut out my TV set when some people are talking. Okay.
No, read it. It is my name. Call it. There's no problem.
No, there's no name there.
Okay.
Paul is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and the host of the juries. Our leaders of country has positioned everybody in the country to be the same, but here the commoners are suffering. I'm Pastor Eno Tambe, writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Leo. God bless Apostle Ambe and Dr. Ako for their high intelligence. All my life growing up, I've known the price of cup of salt to be 50 francs. Today, I'm buying a cup of salt for 100 francs. Gary is more expensive than rice. Where are we going to? Hunger will kill us. So Elvis is writing from mile 4. Mile 4 should be in Limbe. Good evening. In the studio, we don't stop importation to boost local production, but rather boost local production to stop importation. Please, okay? Mr. Kedia. I don't know what Kedia said about that. Good evening, House Apostle Ambe. You are God sent to us, the Anglophones. God bless you, sir. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Enjoying the program from Ground Zero, but Mendam for Augustine says, living in Gary. Gary is one of the things that is very high in the market. Even the fish she talked about, I'm sure he's talking about Kedia. Everything is very high in our markets. Let the truth be told. Okay. Good evening to you, DJ Bernat, watching us from DJ Bernat is watching us from Boya this evening. Good evening to you all in the studio. Thank you, Apostle Ambe, for saying it without any fear or favor. May I remind somebody that he is living in space. May he touch down on the realities of Cameroon. Prices are skyrocketing, yet we are expecting to pay taxes on the air we breathe, yet income level is zero. What a pity. Derek Walla is writing from Chang. How do we get out of the current impasse, Mr. Ghana, Maina? You think that boosting home production will not help the situation?
Thank you, Mr. Leo. First of all, there is something we need to understand as a citizen of the country, the citizen of the continent Africa. Number one, there is a difference between the intellect and the awareness. When you are intelligent, you know things but you don't understand things. But when you are aware, you know things and you understand what's happening and you are able to solve it. I want us first of all to put that on the table to make sure which side we belong to. Are we intelligent or we have awareness? Because if we have awareness, we will understand number one. If we want this thing to change, we have to understand exactly what it is. Even though we are going to produce locally, Mr. Leo, don't forget, a large scale of production, fertilizers and other chemical products needed that we need to import them from international markets. And we protect again our market to be noted properly and to design a system that can help our common citizens to move on. Whatever we said, monopoly is those kind of things. In 2018 and 19, if you see the kind of scarcity in Nigeria, the rice and other commodities when President Buhari shut down the importation, it was more higher than Cameroon. People scream, people complain, but at the end of the day, they understood the difficulty we want to make a change. So the moment we want to make change, Mr. Leo, we have to make sure that we very hard. Some people will pay the price, but at the end of the day, things will become better. I will encourage the local production, yes. Because when we have local production, we create a lot of jobs. And when we create jobs, mean that we will prosperity, and if there is a prosperity, people will never complain about the high commodity. Now, number two, let us keep on our mind that our currency always will have 14% inflation every year, either we like it or not. At the end of the day, if we want to buy something last year, it's going to be very different with this year, 2022. That is let's our panelists, they explain to common citizens what's going on, the reality of the economy in this world, Cameroon. Africans are facing the problem because they don't have awareness in their own system, in their own country, in their own economy. It will affect us very hard if we don't agree how to move on and to prepare ourselves the way we are going to go. Now, it's possible we tax a campaign to help our people at least to produce locally and to produce on the larger scale. Nobody has monopoly in this world. I want to tell our brother, Mr. Apostle Ambe Valentine, the only thing to do in this world is to clear your territory. If you become like that, nobody will come to Africa. There is no monopoly. Put yourself work and the world will listen to you, and the country will listen to you, and the government will listen to you. You don't have always to blame the government. We want to make sure also we take our responsibility in our hand. Because if we do the government for 40 years, where are we today? It's the same world we are living. Get back to you, Mr. Leonard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Maina Gana. We're going to take a short break, after which we move on to our second topic for tonight.
Celebration, celebration, celebration. Honor the distinguished patronage of Littoral Governor Ivaha Diboa and Archbishop Samuel Kedia. Barrister Nico Hale celebrates God's grace upon his life at Sawa Hotel on February 25, 2022. Celebration culminates with the launching of Mega Magazine Journey Through Tomb for Barrister Nico Hale Awards Gallery. Time 2 p.m. prompt.
Welcome back. If you're watching Prime Eye on My Media Prime. This time around, we're going to be looking at what is happening in the west of Africa with subsequent, with a series of coup d'etats. We've seen what happened in Burkina Faso and in Mali, and as well as in Guinea. The question is, why is the population seemingly contented with what is happening? Many would have expected them to rise against this coup agents, but they are working with them and are comfortable. Is it the fact that should this be the new trend, Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa? Coup in West Africa, why are the people not angry with these guys?
Africa is like a virgin that is introduced to sex unconsciously when it's not matured. Everybody can have sex to such a person, with such a person. But when the person becomes matured and aware, it doesn't allow people to penetrate them anymore. That is the Africa we have now. You know, when some of our leaders took power in those days, the Europeans came with a lot of things, like structural adjustment program and privatization, and they were excited, so they embraced all those things, and like they brought democracy too, we're excited. They preached it and presented it to us, we're excited, so we embraced those things. But Mali said you can fool some people sometime, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. Africans have been fooled with this farce called democracy for so many years. As a matter of fact, the way it is presented, the way it was presented to us, it was a scam. It came to take away the African values we had. Tell me how many people wrestled over power in the days of kings and chiefs, in fondoms and chiefdoms. There was that consciousness that this thing is hereditary. So there's nobody contending for it. They came and preached us the message of power can rotate hands. What they taught us is not what they are practicing. So for long, we have seen that what they preach is not what they are practicing. It's just like the church. when a pastor is preaching against stealing and he's stealing, the congregants cannot take him any serious. We are that congregation, and democracy has been that message that our preachers that came from Europe have preached it for us many years, yet they are not practicing it. They will keep people in power in this country, in other countries, 30 years, 40 years, 38 years, 37 years, yet they are preaching that democracy is the government for the people, by the people, of the people. What are they preaching and what are they practicing? Totally different. Democracy is gone through the ballot box. Then suddenly a president dies in Chad, a president from abroad flies down to Chad, and then automatically violates the ballot box and install a new person in power, and everywhere is quiet. So we have taken these things for so many years, and we have refused in Africa that this thing does not work here. It has caused us to kill more people, destroy property. While we were fighting, beating our head in the name of democracy, they were entering gradually into our system and sucking at our properties. Me, I would prefer a leader who is doing a job very well to last in power for the next 100 years, as long as he gets the job done. Go to Singapore. Singapore was transformed not by democracy. Go to most of the countries in the world, we are not transformed to democracy. So the reason why you see the west of Africa reacting like that is a wind that is blowing, and it will affect the entire continent of Africa, because Africans have come to understand that these people are preaching a sermon that they are not practicing. They are like that pastor who stands on the pulpit and say, "Thou shalt not steal," and he's the number one thief. So these people are now very excited. When you see the population sit quiet when a military coup takes place, it's a clear indication that they have endorsed it. Secondly, the Malians, who are supposed to be an example we are going to use today, they marched into the street in defense of the person who took power. They kicked out the French ambassador. They have been singing and praising Assimi Goïta and protecting his interests. Is to let you understand that that child you deceived yesterday, who did not know anything and penetrated her vagina, has outgrown that manipulation. The foolish Africans you met in those days and introduced your scheme of democracy and your scam, they have outgrown that democratic manifestation. So when I hear people say, we don't support military coup, we should go along with democracy, tell me any country in Africa that democracy has been successful. If not the manipulation through which they use in the name of ballot boxes to put the persons that they want to be in power. In the 54 states of Africa, apart from the kingdoms, how many of the presidents are democratically elected? Not manipulated into power. Because there's a difference between being elected democratically and being manipulated into power. How many of them? So when you see the people of the West like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea-Conakry, they are very quiet when leaders take power and even come out in the streets to celebrate and even to endorse the leader, is a clear sign that we have grown or outgrown that scam called democracy for so many years. Let us call it another name and introduce it in our own system within the context of Africa, because that thing that was borrowed and brought here doesn't work here.
Dr. Aku, John Aku, what's happening in West Africa? Is it the denial of the existing leadership, or the fact that democracy has not served them?
I believe 60 years after independence, if we have replaced colonial institutions, then it will mean we are not sincere to ourselves. There are a lot of some colonial traces still living within the ranks of those nations. And the countries we have just called, you will equally know that Mali has the strongest, the highest history in terms of coup d'etats in Africa. We should equally not forget about Guinea-Conakry. We should not equally forget about Burkina Faso. There is none of those nations that has ever accepted democracies as an alternative to governance. And I believe several times when those issues are raised, those countries still remember what the military rulers did to them. This is rather unfortunate, because when you compare to the like of other nations, I'm telling you, a country like Nigeria that was prone to coup and today has been stable and looking at economic strength, I believe there are prices we pay for accepting democracy. Yeah, there is equally, maybe some people said, Africancracy would have been better. That a democratic government system that depends on the rule within the African context would have served the continent rather than an imported philosophy that does not work on the geographical, economic, and weather or economic situation of the particular continent. In Africa, we live most often than not that those who are elected, what is believed today is that those who are elected in one way or the other have been manipulated from the West and that they represent the authority of the West. This can equally tell you of what goes on in Cameroon, that a leader for 40 years he has been unable to be replaced because they are there to serve for those who elected or those who appointed or those who installed them. We can see this, that the coup d'etats that took place in Africa, of recent, when you look at the situation in Mali, it makes a lot of grievances. When you look at the situation in Burkina Faso, you have a bit of other traces. But now in Guinea-Conakry, and what we just realized in Chad, places are so calm and quiet as if the indigenous and the citizens accept it as a rule of the game. This is what I said here sometime. When such changes come, which are pushed over by a third party, not the will of the people, then we should not even expect anything. We have not seen in Africa a nation that has been developed because of a particular coup d'etat that took place and rendered or restored the livelihood of that particular nation. We have equally believed strongly that Africans are supposed to get mature to do things by themselves. Could you even imagine that a father could be assassinated and the son installed by a foreign leader? Could we even imagine that in another country, that somebody that was trained in a foreign country took over from the president that was elected, and that has been admitted and accepted by still Africans? I believe we have to move out of this particular yoke of thinking. Within a lot of these African countries, some are littering in ignorance. And I said ignorance is one of the highest crimes that Africans have committed. We need to be schooled on what we want. We need to be schooled on the way forward of the nation. Sometime I said again, 60 years of independence, no African country owns what we think. We talk of a think tank, where we think of the way forward of the nation. I will tell you that when you are proud of the French, when you are proud of the British, when you are proud of the United States citizens, they have a cluster of councils and consultants within the government telling you the way forward of the state. We are still littering around what I call a game of interest, and that those who are well protected will obviously come over, take power, manipulate. The moment the interest of those who dictate them in power is no longer comfortable, you have to shift to your side. This is just what is happening in Africa. We need somewhere that when we have accepted, we were taught democracy in school, and that is not really what Patrice Lumumba said. He asked the Belgians that what I was taught in school is not what I'm seeing in the street of Congo. Can you tell us exactly why this was taught in school, and then you are practicing something else until the people understand what they need, until the people learn to serve their own basic interests rather than serving the interests of the world? Then democracy is not yet welcome in Africa. If we are not ready for democracy, that is what is indicating that some of those citizens are now more comfortable with coup d'etats, and they will believe that whatsoever the military leader will render their country beautiful. But we are still not going to be surprised that in 5, 6, 10 years' time, these same countries will just be turning around a vicious cycle. There is need for Africa to maybe formulate their own rules of traditional institution. You can imagine there is a kingdom of Swaziland, and we have not heard of coup d'etats in those places where there are kingdoms. We are still to hear of a coup d'etat in Morocco and many others that are ruled. Should we dive back to the old African institutions? And likewise, we are saying that a lot about African institution and instability was not known. Okay. And so a lot of those Africans admitted it from the West, thinking that it was the best, that they can select you anytime, and now they select, dictate, change the laws. We have forgotten about electoral coup d'etats. We have forgotten about constitutional coup d'etats, like what has been taken in Cameroon and many other countries. In Uganda still, where we have Museveni has been ruling for the past years. He's the lone person that can rule. After him, Uganda will disappear. And so this is what we call constitutional electoral. Does that even create a problem? Let's talk about the military coup d'etats and look at those literal coup d'etats that take care of people's brain and manipulate people. You keep on standing in the same elections.
Good evening to you in the house watching from Dubai. Why do people always choose to support what is wrong? Let us accept the fact that Cameroonians can no longer put food on the table anymore. Things have become so expensive in a common man. At times I cry because here in Dubai is a desert where nothing items of agriculture can be functional. But I wonder, a country blessed with diverse resources, yet low standards of living is killing my people. Writing from Dubai, Cyprien Gisem. Good evening to you, Cyprien. Yes, but thank God to the family that you are over there. You can always send us something. You can always send, even me, Cyprian, you can send me some Dubai. Is Dubai Waran or?
The leaders.
Daily liras.
Dinners.
Yes, Dirham. Yes. Good evening, Mr. Liu, Apostle Ambe, and Dr. Ashu. I am not greeting one person in the studio. Mr. Liu, democracy is the worst thing that ever came to Africa, because Africa would have been far without this nonsense called democracy. Okay. Good evening to you, Kedia. Good evening to a panelist and listeners of my Media Prime. I am Peter Foza Alemji. I wish to advise the Malians to understand that these same people they are cheering today, it might turn out the other way around tomorrow. We need to know that in Africa, leadership is very sweet, and having a gun and authority is not easy to let go. We may be coming back after 5 years to bloody battle in Mali. Thanks. Okay. Good evening, sir. Please, I got your number from my Media Prime. I'm a nurse from Biaka University Institute. Okay. I followed their program on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Can you just write to me after the program? I know what you want. This is Marjane from Limbe. Our suffering in Cameroon is coming more than what we are experiencing now. Can you imagine a new charging people for fraud, and a new meta is brought to you in a very high price from Douala? Good evening, Mr. Liu and all the panelists. We should not be surprised that prices are rising and will continue unperturbed. The Minister of Commerce has entered into a deep sleep and even into a coma. For 4 years now, there has been no appointments to replace retired workers. What then do you expect from such a ministry? Tiku Philip, writing from Boya. Good evening to you, Tiku Philip. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Your outfit is great. We need the designer name, Mr. Liu. If I buy the dress, how will I wash it when the price of savon today has risen from 250 to 300? Carton price is just horrible. Pressing will definitely be very expensive. Georgia, writing from Bermuda. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Kum and the powerful panelists. One might think the increase in price wahala is only in some parts of Cameroon. Mr. Liu, I live in Sangmalima. The president's town is not just difficult, but it is hard and difficult. Increases in price in basic commodities is skyrocketing every day, and likewise, it varies from shop to shop. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, and Dr. Ako, thanks for speaking the truth. The common man is suffering. It's Nelson Gomez writing from Sangmelima. Yes, it's not easy, but we're talking about democracy and the coups taking place in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. What is not right with Africa's democracy?
It will be so broad if we talk about Africa's democracy. We should talk about French Africa. Okay. I heard my co-panelists talking. Nobody mentioned France to say that is the problem. You see, as an analyst, I've grown into it that I say my thing fearlessly, not caring about the consequences, especially when I know what I'm saying is right. The problem in those countries is France. We should be honest to say it. We should not beat around the bush. Because say West Africa, somebody would think that Ghana could be involved. Somebody would think that Nigeria could be involved. We should say French African countries. Those are the problem. And why is it so? Because of those 1959 Accords, which I think we all know, which they forced some of our leaders to sign. And with the excitement of getting independent, they were excited with the independence and did not focus on the accords they were signing. And that is the problem, that the mind of the people are open now. Their machineries are still there, the francophonie, the whatsoever currency, those things are still there. And that's why the problems are there. And that's why the eyes of the people are open and they are fighting for it. It is true that we don't promote military coup, but when the military look at the interests of the masses, you definitely see that they are not working on their own and personal interests. However, there are consequences too, because power is very sweet. When these military people are there, they taste power, they may like to stay. And still the very people fighting against France may still look for the backup of France. Like we saw in a country in the CEMAC zone where somebody lost his father and was backed up by the same person that suspect to have killed his father to stay in power. So those are some of the aspects we should know, we should denounce it, that is the fact. Mr. Kum Leonard, most of these French African presidents that don't fight against neo-colonialism are mostly sent away by their people. I will give you an example in one country in the CEMAC zone, Mr. Kum Leonard, where the president refused to renew the 1959 accord, seized the petroleum company in that country from France and gave to Russia. A French company that was controlling the seaport, they are sent away. They now control about 35% of the seaport. They are being chased away. When you look at such a leader that is standing for his people, do you think there will be any coup d'etat? Do you think the military, knowing that yes, there is neo-colonialism, is serious, these are the problems we face as a consequence, but when you meet a leader that is fighting against it, what do you think? In that very country, in the CEMAC zone, they have created media that educated the people to talk about the evil of Francophonie, to talk about the evil of France CFA. That same leader promoted those TV stations in that very country to educate his masses so that they should not be exploited. How do you think there will be a coup d'etat in that particular country? There are processes. A leader cannot stand at once and stop everything. We know the consequences. We know what happened to the president of Libya when he wanted to stop it. We know the consequences. It's progressively. So I want all Cameroonians listening to understand what I'm saying. I may not go detail to be calling him, but you should look at what is happening in your country and you will know what is happening. And to the countries in West Africa, I would like to tell them that this military coup may be good, but it should not be promoted. They should stand for democracy. However, democracy should be related to the culture of various people and their various definition. All is that is the people that are to decide who is their leader. If the people decide who is their leader, then they realize that their leader is going astray, because there are some leaders that they'll come, they'll say good things to you, Mr. Kum Leonard. When you trust them with power, they decide to turn. Like for instance, I saw a video of a senator in Nigeria. Oh my God, when I look at that picture, that video, I thought it was a presidential election of a senator donating everything. It was more than a fee, filled with gifts that is given to people. We are in Africa. We will clap, that is a good job. But is it his personal money? When he gets to power, is he supposed to balance back that money in his pocket? Those are the various aspects that us as Africa, we should not be excited, but we should be realistic. Okay. So to conclude, Mr. Kum Leonard, coup d'etat is not encouraged. No matter how good it is, if their job, they did a coup d'etat because they did not like what their president is doing, they should give back power to another civilian.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Great appreciation goes to Apostle Ambe and Dr. Ako, but okay. Dr. John, writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Dr. John. Good evening. Mr. Liu, great apostle. For me, I love your program. Atia is writing from Yaoundé. Greetings, Mr. Liu and crew. Thanks for the wonderful topic. Democracy is good, but Africa is not yet mature to embrace it. What Africa needs now is what I call technocracy. Mr. Alfred is writing from Amanda. Elvis from Yaoundé says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and greetings to all the panelists. You people are also forgetting the price of engine oil, which a liter was 1,800 francs, and now it's 2,400 francs. The price of insurance was 35,000 francs for 3 months, and now it's 55,000 francs. It's terrible. Good evening to you, Elvis. Something needs to be done. Hi, my name is Abdoulaye Diallo from Mali, 15 miles from Bamako, Kati. I like to participate in your program. Abdoulaye has sent some audios. I don't know whether we can listen to them. I'll send the audios to you Eli, if you can exploit them, we are going to listen to Abdullahi since he is in Mali. That would be great. But now, Mr. Maina Gana, what is your appreciation of what is happening in Mali? Some people think that it is proof that Africans are not mature for democracy. Is it the concept of democracy that is not well understood in Africa, or the persons who have been given that pride of place to lead Africa these days that have messed up the concept?
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Let me tell you one thing. Change is inevitable and misery is optional. In this world, there is a time that things have to change, either we like it or not. If they do not change by ease, they will change by force. The more we grow in this world, the more we become aware, the more we are ready to change. Let me align myself with our brother Ambe to take scam all democratic Africa, especially French African countries. There is something is not fishing, is not matching. Why? Because democracy either has not been well understood, or we don't even know the principle of democracy because it's not working at the end of the day. When we sit down, we study countries that don't have democracy. They are Tamnjong. Those countries are well developed, their economy is well, the population is living well. And when we come to the democratic country, it's working. The politics is zero, the economy is zero, the social is zero. Why is that? So mean that this democracy is a question mark. We need to understand, is that a sample to bring something to let us spend our time and energy to focus on something that cannot kill us? This is the question I'm asking myself. Because when you discover that in all the French countries in Africa, their democracy is stagnant, nothing is moving at the end of the day. We just preach democracy, but is there any democracy? I'm asking you. Because when we see democrat countries who claim that they are democrat, when you see the life of the common citizen, you know that people are democrat because they can talk to the government. But in which African French country that we see that the citizen can talk to the government mistake? We can talk about autocracy, that you want power to do everything. But at the end of the day, if you think about your country, you want to do your country, you can stay even 100 years, like our president said. Nobody worry. If you see any country that if the citizens are very interested in politics and the government, mean that this country is not doing well. Yes, any country who is doing well, like UAE, like Singapore, like Japan, nobody is interested about politics because their life is secure. Like Saudi Arabia, like Bahrain. They are not even thinking about, they don't even know who's running the government because their life is well. Why not focusing on the real life and forget about this life? Democracy. We Africans, and we try to do something can last everlasting because we are wasting a lot of energy thinking about democratic election. Those things are wasting Africa. Every 5 years, we need to spend a lot of money just for the election. We spend 2 or 3 years wasting our time and energy for the campaign. At the end of the day, we are injected and the country is not moving. So, this democracy is a blockade or is a break for the development of African countries, Mr. Leo. That's why in West Africa, the younger generation are very tired because they see their future is not bright.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I really want to know from the CBD militant from the studio whether supporting wrong things makes you a patriot. Why do they give some impressions at times as if there are no living in the same country? Because when I listen to him and other militants of his party, they always behave as if there are more Cameroonians than the others. Let us change our mentalities. Bagwo Donatos is writing from Ebolova. Hello, Prime, nice outfit, Mr. Liu. Tabingu writing from Zang Tabi. Good evening to you. That's in Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Is Mavis B from Chateau Bonaberry. Greetings to Pastor Ambe and Mr. Ako. Our country is becoming worse, as Mr. Ako said. 5,000 francs can't do anything in the house. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu, democracy is more of evil than blessing in Africa. Jibrila Manu Buba writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu and you all at the studio. I'm writing from Bafme. Good evening to you and also to the Lord Mayor of Fungom. For Zwa Council, Fungom Subdivision, Menchum Division of the Northwest Region. Once more, Mr. Liu, democracy in Africa now is not as what used to be. Our African leaders are now copying the stinginess and the selfishness attitudes of the whites. They just manipulate with the ballot boxes, and when they are in power, what was preached in the name of campaigns will now be allowed on papers and not practical as democracy will stand. Let's we Africans be watchful. Saidu Ibrahim Ma, writing from Tibati. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The ministers are watching, is talking of the impressed them because of honest, okay. Dr. Ako are talking they should be given more time. Cynthia is writing from Boya. Mr. Kum, good evening. How do we boost the home produce goods, okay? Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm enjoying your program from Bomenda. My regards to Dr. Ako and Apostle Ambe. I'm enjoying them. Thank you very much. Okay, Carlson writing from Yamdi says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and kudos to Kedia for his wonderful analysis. Price hikes is worldwide as a result of COVID. Mr. Ako and Dr. Ako and Apostle. Because I read Carson, and because we are all in the same forum, people are laughing. What's the problem?
Carson, good evening.
Okay, Carson.
Good evening, Carson.
Yes, when we used to talk of birds of a feather when they flock alike.
Yes,
it is the normal that Carson.
You are also a bird of a feather now with other persons.
Yes, but then for the
no,
interest
they
of
have
the
a
people,
right. They have a right to their.
We have not said they have no right. There is no patriotism.
When people are praising you, why don't you comment?
I said there is no patriotism when militants of a particular party see nothing wrong in what is wrong.
Dr. Ako, when people are praising you, why is Kedia not talking?
They are not like praising. They are simply acknowledging.
Yes, but now they're casting.
And so we realize, and of those, all of those people that have been praising, we don't even know them. But when you see that a member of a political party is coming in,
an analyst is somebody that is able to say what is good and what is bad.
Okay.
And when you come on a platform and you make the viewers to believe that everything in Cameroon is bad and you don't see anything good, sorry, it's disappointing. It's very, very
okay. Please, no. That's a part of the discussion.
You are having a uniform.
Doctor,
you are wearing a CPDM uniform, and the option is that you refuse even when it's not supposed to refuse.
Doctor, can we continue? Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am Celia from Bamenda. I love your outfit. Thank you very much, Celia. Please, Carlson is saying kudos to your analysis. Mr. Kum, good evening. How do we boost that home-produced goods? WADA was closed, yet we want youth to embark in agriculture. Greetings to Prof. and Apostle. Okay, Mr. Bezang is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you all. I think our problem is with persons, okay? Someone said Biya has been there for 40 years because the people love him. That's the funniest thing I ever heard for a very long time. Gerard is writing from Long Street in Boya. But now, let's look at democracy in Africa. Are we where we are because nobody, actually, we have not had institutions that could actually check the full implementation of this concept in Africa, or also the fact that our sub-regional associations or organizations have failed to ensure core democratic practices in these nations, as well as our continental associations like the AU.
Mr. Liu, the imperialists left Africa, but they left their structures.
Okay.
Their persons went, but their structures remained behind. And those structures are working the same way as the persons.
Mm-hmm.
These structures, our African leaders only come into those structures, and they have no other choice than to react the way the structures are put in place. Mm-hmm. I have given this analysis on this platform. If you take ice water and put in a cup and put in a fridge, when that thing solidifies and becomes ice, if you remove it, it will take the exact shape of that cup. If you take a mold and you put bread inside, once the bread gets ready, you remove it, it will take the same shape of that mold. The structures that the imperialists left in Africa, they are as effective as the imperialists themselves. One of those structures is democracy. The fake so-called democracy they left in Africa. Secondly, they left some bodies in Africa like La Francophonie, Commonwealth. They left things like the franc CFA and their currencies. Those are all structures put in place that even if you take who, no matter how intelligent the person is, you put into that structure, the person will definitely produce the same shape the structure looks like. Look at any opposition leader in Africa when they have not yet sat on the seat, which is one of the molds. They give you the best. They will give you constructive ideas. No African leader is dull. Look at them when they were opposition leaders, from Alpha Conde, from the rest of the leaders. If you read our president, the book on communal liberalism, that is the knowledge of, and that's endowed wisdom deposited in a man.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I'm a very rational person. I don't do crazy, I don't fight people in my analysis. If at all those ideas that those guys had as opposition were given the opportunity to manifest in their different nations, Africa would have been a place where people would be flying from Europe and America to come here for holidays. But because the structures put in place, once you enter into those structures, you are left with no choice than to produce what the structure has put in place. A lot of intelligent persons who enter into those structures have become dunces. Not because they are naturally dull, but because the environment you find yourself will automatically make you dull. And that is the reason why we should stop talking about who is sitting where and who is occupying where. We should look for means to dismantle these structures that have been put in place, that when individuals enter into, the change to become something else. I have seen very brilliant leaders when they were opposition leaders. Look at what is happening right now in Zambia. I can't Echelema. When he was an opposition leader, he spoke very well. He has entered into an office. You will watch and see for some time. A very few of them, like Magufuli, who came and met a structure in Tanzania, the first thing he did was to dismantle the structure. Any leader who does not dismantle the existing structure will definitely produce the same result like his predecessor. And that is the reason why we are telling people that the coups taking place in Mali, they are not there to lead. Those coups are there to dismantle structure. That's why Bambara has become the language of Mali. Mali is pressing for its own currency. That's a structure. Mali is trying to fight against the imported system of government called democracy. That's a structure. Mali is disconnecting from ECOWAS, disconnecting from La Francophonie. That's the structure. Any leader that wants to make maximum impact, don't go and sit in those same structures and expect to produce better results. No. Go to Niger right now. You will see Mohamed Bazoum. He has entered into that structure. If you watch his speeches as a campaign manager against the existing president, you will realize he was a wonderful leader. But now he's the one that accommodating the forces that were chased out of Mali by the Malians. He wants the forces to stay in Niger. The structure in place. Mamadi Doumbouya, before Alpha Conde came to power, he fought against Lassana Conte for many years. And the things that Alpha Conde preached convinced everybody that this is a Messiah coming. Once he entered into the structure, he began changing the constitution. And that's a man who is supposedly the first democratically elected president in Guinea-Conakry. This man called Doumbouya has come to kick Alpha Conde out to dismantle the structure. Any African leader that takes power should not be excited in sitting in office. Dismantle the existing structures in place if you want your people to be free. And that is exactly what Mama Assimi Goita is doing. The same thing Madi Dumbe is doing. I still have a question mark with Henry Burkina Faso because he has gone there to maintain the constitution. There's a question mark there. These are the things that every African leader who is coming to power, whether in Cameroon or any other country, don't just be excited to go and sit there. Be excited and be focused to dismantle the structure. That's why Magufuli came to power. The first thing he did was to dismantle the structure. All the British mining companies, Acacia and the rest that were exploiting the mines in Tanzania, he dismantled them by taking back the percentage of the mine back to the government in Tanzania. These are the things we are talking about. Dismantle the structures in place. So all these things called elections, democracy, you are still sitting on CFA, so you are democratic. You are still sitting under La Francophonie. You are still sitting under Commonwealth. You are sitting under the so-called democracy. You are still sitting on all these their foreign structures they have left in place, my friend. You are still sitting on the 1959 Pact. You will suffer. It was when this guy was president of AU, when France asked Yayi Boni in Benin to pay part of the $500 million they collect every year, and the economy of Benin was on its knees. So the man said, I cannot help you. They had to call Mandela. Mandela had to call Chirac and told Chirac, Benin is on its knees, and you people are still there to collect colonial dues structures.
Okay.
Bring who is more intelligent. You say Apostle Ambe is intelligent. If I come tomorrow and sit on that seat with that structure, if I don't dismantle that structure, I will act as foolish as any other leader.
Okay. Hello, good evening, Mr. Liu. Your outfit is great. We need the designer's name. Okay. Mr. Liu, I like you because you are a good referee, very intelligent journalist you are. Yes, you are. Greetings to all the players in the picture. You're writing from Bamenda. I don't know who is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you. You say I should greet everybody there. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I love the angles at which, you mean angles, so yes, at which Apostle Valentine is taking his analysis. It's clearing and understanding. Alpha Justice Omega, writing from Douala. Good evening. Said democracy has not failed because it has never been exercised in majority of African countries, especially Cameroon. What we have in Cameroon is democracy by name of total autocracy and constant elections and constitutional coups. The only solution is to destroy all the current structures in place. These structures have failed us and will keep on failing us. There is this saying that you must destroy in order to bring in development. We must do same with Africa to achieve any change. Clement is writing from Bonaberi. Good evening to you, my dear brother Clement. Mr. Leo, good evening and greetings to all the panelists. I love your outfit. Please, can I have the designer's number? I'm Christopher from Enugu in Nigeria. Good evening to you, Christopher. Greetings to you. This is Nke Ferdinand Langa in Bamenda. Greetings to you, Mr. Kum, Apostle Ambe and Dr. Achu. You guys are wonderful. To continue doing that which is good. For Carlson, I won't blame him because those are the policies of the party in which he belongs. Carlson is not part of this program. Ferdinand Langa is writing from Adi in Bamenda. Carlson is not here, please. Good evening, Mr. Liu. How can Cameroonians not remove the president power as it happens in Zimbabwe? Okay. Mr. Liu, once there is a clean government, there will be a perfect implementation of democracy. Greetings to you, Mr. Liu, Apostle Ambe and Dr. Ako. John, watching live from Boya, Jonty Janet, writing there. Good evening to you, Jonty Janet. Hello to all in the studio. I'm supporting Apostle Ambe. Democracy is the biggest scam that has ever existed in the history of Africa. Mondi is writing from, yes, why are you supporting him? He's not a party leader. Mondi is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Madam Sabina. a colleague who works at the GTHS, Boya, and also to the husband and family. Glad to know that you are always watching us. Now, let's look at this issue of democracy. We know La Francophonie, it's a French organization that supposedly
is the equivalent to Commonwealth.
Yes, Commonwealth. But we have, what is this democracy? Is it the fact that a president wins elections even if it's for 30, 40 years, or the fact that there are certain things that must be done, like respect for human rights and a host of others? Because most of us are looking at democracy strictly from the perspective of the long stay in power.
No, not really. Democracy has a lot of facets, meaning governance, performance generally, accountability, transparency, information system, human rights, the respect for one another, then the right for all, the dignity of man. This is democracy, which is totally sum up to what we call elections and campaign and electing leaders. Before all this, democracy has within its own the implementation of pockets. We mean pockets that hold the general the general tree. So there are roots, then you have the final tree. Democracy, when you look at it, human beings in Africa need to remember that in an effort to promote one of those values within a democratic system will obviously promote all. And an effort to reduce one, there is always a character that you will reduce the other, which means that in an effort to stop people from going to school, which is a right, there will always be a possibility that you are going to oppress or stop them from moving from one place to another. If you have an effort to stop people from talking, there will always be a possibility that TVs and radios will be oppressed. So these are some of the values within a democratic standards which have been used equally by a lot of those international organizations as measuring rods. And again, you can imagine of recent democracy has to even do with the new or third generation rights. We mean everybody has a right to himself. We mean homosexuality should be acknowledged, and in many other regions, people should do what they like to do with themselves. But within it, what comes to Africa is that those who are voted as leaders in Africa, like Apostle Ambe was saying, I will tell you that I am one of those people who feel that little should always be accused of an external party. When we have a problem at home, I believe that we try to look at the problem at home, where the problem is coming from. A lot of those who are elected as leaders, none of them have stopped them from construct a stadium in within one year or 15 months. And none of them has stopped them from buying a bag of cement at 4,400, but that a bag of cement should cost 16,400, or that a tube of sand, which is ordinarily sold at 70,000, should become 700,000. These are just the parts of what democracy becomes so negative within the African continent. And for us to keep on maintaining and justifying why we are there, while the white boy who installed us on the seat is waiting for accountability, the way you manage your people doesn't count. If you manage your people, they said, get on, change the constitution. If you win, fine, you become the president. And they will back you up. Which means we are the manipulators of our own brain. A lot of Africans become so egoistic and self-centered the moment they get into office. That has not changed. We might have a few examples, but I'm telling you that democracy, if well interpreted, it has worked well with those people. One of the issues which maybe you are addressing, we are not talking about the institutions, which means that in Africa, the democracy is considered that the leader is the institution. The leader is the leader, and the leader is the institution themselves. So which means that there is nothing that is associated. Remember, the military, head of armed forces, head of magistracy, head of the National Assembly, we even appoint senators now. When you appoint senators, out of 70 senators, you appoint from an institution that was supposed to oversee the activities of the executive. What are you indirectly telling? They said in English that you cannot call a piper and the tune doesn't come at your call. So this is what happened. Democracy has become a manipulation of state institutions so that we keep on lagging. Within a democratic society, we intend to see that Africans should give us better lessons. And I'm telling you, for those nations that have represented a bit of idea, remember the apartheid system ended in South Africa some 30 years ago, and we can imagine the step they have gone. But that notwithstanding, the nations of Africa will still tell you that they are under transformation. They have other social causes they are facing. When we come to a state like Nigeria or Ghana, which ended from a civil war about 30 years ago too, but that will mean admiration of the whole nation. We have to work for the interests of the people. The fact that Africans have accepted democracy, we need to instead perfect and see how we move forward. You were talking rightly of Magufuli. They did not come to power by coup d'etats. These are people that were democratically elected, just a single mandate. Africa was amazed Nobody could know that Tanzania could be ruled without foreign loans. But imagine what we borrow here every day. Imagine how many of those loans we take every day in a country like the one we belong. What interest? Remember, before we came here, you were asking us, why have salary evolved in other nations, and in a nation like ours, salary has stayed stable? And what is that not a democratic principle? When an individual is working, the interest is that the salary he or she is touching should be capable of taking care of himself and then taking care of his dependents. But in Cameroon, salaries are like piecemeal. They give you to suppress, oppress, and control your mind, so that tomorrow, if you don't have it, you cannot eat. And this is what really a lot of colonized, the colonies or colonized organization work. They give you today. If you don't have water tomorrow, then you come again begging. And this time we become internal or internal beggars for life. We need to move. That when we are elected, we are there to serve the interests of the people. Libyans might have learned a bad example, but I believe that a country like Tanzania equally honored and respected Magufuli. There are a lot of examples we should take. Democracy has its merits, but Africans should not take pretexts. Those who have gone, I'll tell you that one of the things, remember, Alpha Conte told Cameroonians that with Cameroon they cannot talk because the military doesn't go on retirement. And so we are contented with that. And so the 40 years regime has been a military regime.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Greetings to all the panelists in the studio. Special greetings to Apostle Ambe. He is always specific and perfect in analyzing. I hail Apostle Ambe as he is round. The club Basil is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The topic today is really good and educative. Apostle Ambe and Dr. Aku are really being real and fruitful and preaching change. Okay, Kela from Bamenda, I love your outfit. Thank you very much, Kela. Good evening to you. I'm writing from Kumba. The government have really failed us in all aspects. The government only knows to increase prices and adding tax on goods. At first, to withdraw 500,000 francs in mobile money, we first paid 3,500 and now it's 4,500. Cameroon, okay, it's not serious. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am very much delighted to watch this debate, especially to hear Apostle Ambe speak. I would like Apostle Ambe to come and join my party so we can dismantle the structure together. I love all in the panel and love Apostle Ambe a lot more. And Mr. Liu, Sir Ekema, second deputy city mayor. I don't know, city mayor of which town? Where? Is it in Douala or in Boya or in Limbe, please? Good evening to you people in the studio. I'm Primus from Yaoundé. What Apostle Ambe is saying is nothing but the truth, sir. You are wonderful. I love your words, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu, Apostle Ambe, and the rest. I'm blessed from Loom. I think democracy in Africa is practically nonsense because African leaders who are democratically elected are doing nothing for the people, but they are there to protect the interests of the whites, the French in particular. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thank you, Apostle Ambe and Dr. John. Ako, how I wish you are given ministerial positions. You will change a lot of things. May the Lord continue to bless you. For us, Ernest is writing from Bamenda. We should not criticize destructively. Andrew is writing from Mwa. Okay. Mr. Liu, the white man defined democracy as government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But in Africa, the same white man defined democracy government of the minority and by the minority and for the minority. What a paradox. Bagwo Donatus is writing from a Bolova. Now, Kedia, who is to blame for what is happening in Africa? Do you think that in Africa, almost every principle that comes with democracy can apply in our context? Or you think that we need to redefine our democracy to fit into our context, to meet our realities?
Of course. Every system of governance should be related to the culture of the people. If America, they believe in their democracy, China and the other countries, they have their own system, and actually they are developing the way they are developing. So us, Africa, we should accept our own reality and try to make something out of it. We should not only think that is what the West has brought in place, that
we should accept them. Because when you are in a country, in Africa for instance, you have a colonial force in your country, you use the currency of that country, you belong to the Francophonie or the Commonwealth of that country, your national language is that of that country, they simply mean that you are a replica of that country, but most of the time they are not replica like the country the way they manifest, but negatively. So those are some of the aspects that Africans should learn. It is true that colonialism brought a divide and rule in Africa, where we have different, the person will say, I'm a Francophone French culture, another will say Spanish culture. All these have actually caused a division in Africa. And another problem why we have this in Africa is because Africans are states and not nations. Because when you go to the Slavia, you go to the Slav nations, you realize that Finland as a nation have one culture. Ireland has one culture. Norway has one culture. But when you come to Africa, we realize that, like in, for instance, in Cameroon, we have about 200 and something culture. You go to Nigeria, we have about maybe 3 major culture with the British culture again that is on it. It now brings division, because when you look at the case in Cameroon, we are fighting because of a colonial culture. The Francophone and Anglophone marginalization, everything is because of the white man culture. Those are some of the problems we are actually having. So if Africans can look their own situation and try to form their own structure that will go with their own situation, it will definitely be a good thing. I praise our leaders that fought for independence, the Jomo Kenyatta, the Nyereres, and the rest. Their vision, really, that they were looking for the African country, unfortunately, is not what we are seeing today, because the leaders are today really, they are not patriotic as our founding fathers are. If you go, you look at the reasons why the African Union was created, is definitely not the reason why it is what it is doing now, because now they go to maybe Ethiopia and they drink, they come back and they sit. Actually, they don't execute what is happening. So I will actually beg that Pan-Africanists that are there should be able to educate the people on the ills of this aspect at all levels. I believe that with the awareness that will give the people, a change will definitely come. We are seeing this in Mali, we are seeing this in Senegal, Burkina Faso, and the rest. It's because of the awareness that surrounds them from Ghana, from Nigeria, and other English countries that inspire them to do such things. Why? Because this country, in their ECOWAS, they are giving a lot of awareness, education to the people. And that is what we are supposed to be doing. To all those that are analysts at times, when they are analyzing, they should be able to let the people know that this is positive, this is negative. Okay. Sorry, excuse me, to learn. When you analyze and you bring only negative aspect, you create hate to the people, and when that hate is manifested, you will not be able to manage it. To conclude, I want to tell all viewers that are calling to greet Mr. Kum Leonard that his dress is very nice. Please, he's married, so just admire just the dress and not him, because he's legally married with kids. So please. And to those that are greeting Mr. Dr. Ako and Ambe, and they are not greeting me, sorry, I like my view and I always stand for my view, and I will never ever change, because I have this internal conviction of what I'm saying, and I'll keep on supporting President Paul Biya. There are some of us that if there is a way we could even sacrifice our life for him to stay very long, we will do it.
Okay. Emil writing from Jotin says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. I agree with Apostle Ambe. Analysis is saying the truth. Aiden Vioff writing from Canada says, good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panelists. There are 2 forms of democracy. Democratic decisions can be taken by majority vote, which is the Western form. It has the advantage of being transparent, fast, and efficient, but downside is that it ignores minority positions. For me, democracy cannot work in Africa because we don't have the foundations to practice such form of government. Aiden Vioff watching from Halifax in Canada. Mabison writing from Kumba says, good evening, Pakum and members of the panel. I like the topic. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Only Jesus can set us free. Is Tagian Donatien writing from Bamenda. Hans Molombe says, good evening, Mr. Liu and the panelists. Democracy has not failed in West Africa, but rather it does not have the weight to carry the countries forward. If we want to look at most of the constitutions in those countries, we will realize that it were all crafted by the West and brought to the ignorant Africans. Okay, Hans, good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. I'm enjoying the arguments. I think increased home production can be of help, but it will not totally solve the problems. Also, the farm to market routes are too bad. If that or at least graded, it will be much good. Gari has become more expensive than rice. In fact, there is no basic commodity that is cheap in the market, be it cocoyams, plantains, yams, palm, groundnut, etc. Okay. Good evening to all of you. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, we are signing out. What should be the panacea for Africa when we talk of democracy?
It's a political science which I did. We are taught different forms of government. There's confederation, there's federation, but Canada is practicing something which is unique now. It's called semi-federalism. That is a system of government that is not common. They created it to fit the context of Canada. I think every nation should know what suits the existing society and then create what can be able to go along with the people in that community. You understand? And I think if at all we are really sensitive, the unity government that we are condemning here is working in China. It's working in Britain. You go to some other countries, confederation is working. You have just heard me say semi-federalism. It's a system of government that never existed. But within the Canadian context, it's working. So I think the solution to the problem of Africa is that every country should define by studying its demography, studying its the environment, the interaction, and the way of life of the people. They should put in place what suits the people. Ours is a society where we are born from two different backgrounds, Anglo-Saxon and French system. There's supposed to be a system of government here that goes with our society. This thing we are trying to copy and paste from somewhere else to operate or apply in our society is where the problem is coming from. If you look in the Northwest, they have different cultures. You go to the South, they have different cultures. This culture, because this is what the people are used to, and that's what suits the life of the people in that environment. So this thing called democracy should be defined individually within the context of a particular society. It's because we are trying to take a democracy that is existing in America, that is having a single language, to come and establish in a country that has double language.
Okay. Also, your last word for democracy to work in Africa, very brief, because we are out of time, please.
Yeah, for democracy to work in Africa, one of the strongest points we have to know is to respect state institutions. We respect state institutions, and again, secondly, the individuals that are elected or voted to office should avoid selling themselves for common stomach problems. A lot of people support evil in Africa in the name of democracy because they are being paid or receiving one benefit or the other for the detriment of all. Those who are voted should sincerely represent the interests of the people. I know that if we build a nation, which is a better nation, there is even nothing to bother about the future of our own children, because the system we have constructed will be capable of taking care of our siblings. We need to be very sincere that before an African, there is a need to cater for those who are weak. There is a need to protect the weak rather than the strong. The government is for the weak and not for the powerful.
Okay, Kedia, no, we say no to coup d'etats. That's what you mean?
Of course, of course. My conclusion is very simple to African countries, and especially to those in West Africa country, that we are about everything about democracy. I have just one sentence to give them. They should learn from Cameroon, President Paul Biya, and they'll have a solution.
Thank you very much. We also want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program, and to say thank you to you, Eli, and to you, Desmond, and to everybody who is watching us across the globe this night. Thank you. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Celebration, celebration, celebration. Honor the distinguished patronage of Littoral Governor Ivaha Diboa and Archbishop Samuel Kedia. Barrister Nico Hale celebrates God's grace upon his life at Sawa Hotel on February 25, 2022. Celebration culminates with the launching of Mega Magazine Journey Through Tumfo Barrister Nico Hale Awards Gallery. Time 2 p.m. prompt.